Hey friends, welcome to Sojo Videos. My name is Joan and today we're going to be making DIY succulents. These are paper succulents, the perfect alternative to paper flowers if you know someone that doesn't really like flowers all that much. I think these turned out pretty cute and they're also great just for room decor, gifts, whatever you'd like. I'll show you tutorials for 2 different types of succulents as you can see here, timestamps and materials listed down below. Let me know if you guys have any questions and you guys can leave it down in the comments. I'll try my best to help out, and with that, let's get on with the video. So first for materials, we're going to need some cardstock paper, scissors, a ruler, a pencil, a hot glue gun, and with that we're going to get started with our first type of succulent. So with our cardstock paper, we're going to draw out something that kind of looks like a 5-pointed star. I'm just using my ruler and pencil to kind of measure out how long the kind of points are going to be, about the same length ideally, and trying to space it out so it kind of looks even, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Once I'm happy with what I have, I'm then going to draw out the kind of shape that I will be cutting out. And the idea is that these points are going to be the actual leaves or pokey parts that are coming out of the succulent, so just kind of shape them as you see fit, and then we're going to cut everything out. Again, no need to make anything too perfect or symmetrical, but once you're done that, we should have something that looks like this. Feel free to trim the edges or shape up the sides until you're happy, and then we can actually use this piece to trace out our next one and then cut that out as well. You're then going to cut out another one, so we end up having 3 of these pieces to our succulent. And now we move on to the next step. So taking one of these pieces, I'm going to basically fold up the leaf portion, just kind of creasing where it connects to the center. Then we're going to repeat this folding process with our second and third piece as well. Now to add a bit more shape and realism to these succulents, I'm going to take my pencil or anything round and kind of curl the leaf portions around it. Again, just to kind of give it a more dynamic feel. And I'm going to repeat that for each of the pieces. Now the idea is that we're going to end up stacking these 3 pieces on top of each other to create our succulent. Here I'm just kind of showing what it will end up looking like. And now we're going to get to gluing to put everything together. So taking my hot glue gun, I'm just going to put it in the center of my first piece, then lay a second piece on top of it. And as I'm putting it together, I'm also curling some of the leaves as I see fit, again to make it more realistic. I'm also adding some glue just to keep the leaves in the middle piece together, but this isn't really necessary. I just wanted to add to it just to make it look more like an actual growing succulent. But once I'm done adding all those details, I'm going to put hot glue on the bottom of that piece and then attach it to the middle as well. Once everything is stacked together, I'm just going to make sure that everything is glued down and properly attached. And again, before I finish, I'm just adding some last minute details just to make things realistic. Like for example here, curling out the outer leaves of the succulent. And once I'm happy with that, I'm basically done making my succulent. Now you could leave it here depending on what project you're using the succulent for, but I'm gonna build a pot on the bottom portion of it. So to do this, I'm just measuring out the circumference around the bottom of my succulent and taking some brown cardstock paper to kind of cut along that length. Which leaves me with a rectangle I can just loop around the bottom of the succulent and glue together to make my pot. So I'm just going to take some hot glue to glue down one end of the pot and then just curl up the rest all the way around and then glue down the other end. Also try not to put too much excess glue as I did here. I just kind of ended up wiping and peeling it off. You can also add a bottom to the pot, but I ended up wanting to leave it as is. And with that, you're done making your succulent. Now to make the second type of succulent with the rounded spread out leaves, I'm going to take a template off of Google. As long as it has the leaf shapes, it should be fine, but I'll link the one that I used. And we're going to just print it onto some cardstock paper. Feel free to also draw your own leaf designs on paper as well. But no matter what way you use, we're going to end up cutting out all of our leaves. So here I'm just cutting them into the different sections of sizes that they're split in. You want a range of smaller to larger size leaves of the same shape, just different size. And just some cutting tips as we're cutting out all of our leaves. I feel like it's a lot easier when you cut out giant sections of your piece of paper before moving on to cutting out smaller individual pieces. And that's the strat that I use to cut out all of my leaves, as you can see here. And once I'm done cutting, I'm just going to sort them into their respective sizes. I'm then going to take one of the leaves and basically cut down, in my case, the slit that is indicated. If you drew out your own leaves or used a different template, you just want to cut a slit down the middle bottom of the petal just before it reaches half, maybe about a quarter or a third down. And the purpose of this is that we're going to end up gluing the flaps together so that it gives a 3D effect for the leaves. And once I've made that cut on every single leaf, I'm going to take some paper and make the base of my succulent, which is just a traced and cut out circle. For the size, you'll have to judge based on the biggest leaves that you have. You just want to make sure that you can fit all of your leaves if you were to glue them right on top, which is what we're going to start doing here. But first, to shape the leaf, we're going to put some hot glue on one flap or side of the cut and then put the other flap on top. And as you can see here, it kind of curls or cups the leaf. And we're going to repeat that process with the other leaves of this size. So again, just hot glue on one of the flaps or one side of the cut that we made earlier, and then we're going to put the other flap on top so that it curls the leaf. And now once we have all the leaves glued and secured, we're then going to move on to attaching them to our base. I'm then going to glue on my leaves to my base, and I noticed the base is a little too big here, as you can still see the circle when I glue down my leaves, so I'm just going to cut it into a smaller circle. It just needs to be big enough so that you can glue your leaves onto it. So for my template, I'm only gluing 3. If you're doing more, that's alright too, as long as it covers it in kind of a full circle. And to glue down the leaves, as you can see here, I'm just taking the bottom part of the curved part of the leaf and putting it down onto our base. So we're going to repeat this process with each of our leaves, again gluing together the flaps on each leaf to give them the curved effect, and then putting them onto our base or succulent and basically layering it. So for example, as you can see here, for the next layer when we're gluing it on, we're going to glue it between the leaves that were already on the base. And we're going to follow the same process with the rest of the layers. So again, gluing the leaves in between the leaves of the last layer. So hopefully now your succulent looks a bit more like an actual succulent, and for the next part we're just going to cut out these 3 pointed shapes, and again, if you're using the template, it's just the ones that they have there, or you can draw and cut out your own. Now these pieces are going to go in the middle of our succulent, so once I've figured out the positioning, we're then going to just hot glue it onto the center. To help press it down, you can also use a pencil just to kind of adjust the spacing. And once you're done with the first piece, we're then going to use the second piece, and I'm just going to curl up the edges of the leaves again to give it a realistic blooming effect, and then we're also going to glue that down in the middle. Once again, I'm just using a pencil to get the positioning right as the hot glue dries. And just to add some last finishing touches, I'm going to use my pencil again to curl the edges of the succulent. And with that, you're basically done your succulent. Now if the green part is all you needed, perfect, you're done, but I'm going to make a pot for the succulent. So to do that, I'm going to cut out a rectangle of brown paper and again put it together so it kind of forms a pot shape. Using my actual succulent as reference, I'm going to mark down where I want the pot to end as I curl it up and just put hot glue there to make the circular pot. Once everything is glued down, and I'm just going to double check that the placement of the succulent is to my liking, I'm then going to turn it over and glue down the succulent to the pot. To do this, I'm just going to take my hot glue gun and kind of glue down the edge of the pot to the bottom of the succulent where it rests. I'm just going to hold everything down to make sure it glues and dries properly. And with that, you should be done your succulent in a pot.